Good evening, friends and family, and thank you for coming to another night in support of Repair, Restore, and Grow Black communities and in viewing our podcast, Behind Black Business. And tonight we have Bob Starks,
Mhm,
who has so graciously agreed to engage in a conversation with us tonight about immigration,
mhm.
which is a very important topic in our community that we need to discuss. I was looking for Doris Lewis, who is a part of our organization. Doris is having some connection problems, but perhaps she may be able to chime in, and if so, then she will be joining us here shortly on the show. Um, as I state to you every week, we are a nonprofit organization. We are a grassroots organization, and we are a small group of people who have come together to make a difference in our community. And we feel that we need to be circulating dollars in our community, and the best way to do that is to support our Black owned businesses. We have many Black businesses in our community that we have featured on this podcast, and we will continue to feature on this podcast to give you an opportunity to know who these businesses are, where they are, and what type of services that they have to offer. And many of our interviews have been very informative because many of our businesses have been around for 50, 60 plus years in this city of Chicago. Our RGBC is using this podcast to give you an opportunity to know who these businesses are. We also raise dollars to assist our businesses. We have helped two establishments here in the Chicago area to develop a website. Website is very important for the success of many of our businesses here. And so we have put our dollars together and the dollars that you have donated to Repair, Restore, and Grow Black communities. And I will say the dollars that you have donated or that we have donated because we have not acquired any grant dollars. So all of the work that we're doing and all of the financial support that we have has come from the community. And so we have used those dollars to pay Black owned companies to create and develop websites for two of our businesses, and that is Fifth City Preschool on the west side and House of Music in the South Shore and Chatham area. And so we're very proud of being able to do that. We also are raising dollars to provide business managers for our businesses and to help improve their decorum. And we're still working on our public policy division where we want our people to support our Black bookstores. We feature a Black bookstore on our podcast every month. And so this month is Afriware, who is located on First Avenue in Maywood. We're getting some feedback back there, Bob.
I'm
Okay,
turning. Okay.
all right. Okay, thank you. All
Mhm.
right, so we support our Black bookstores. Afriware is our bookstore of the month. We feature a book giveaway. And so the book that we're giving away this month is Message to the People by Marcus Garvey. And in this book, Marcus Garvey talks about the importance of reading. He says, never stop reading. He talks about that in this book. And he talks about the importance of educating, continuing to educate ourselves and re educate ourselves, because Marcus Garvey states that we cannot expect the people who are educating us and are oppressing us to educate us on how to free ourselves from this condition. So, this is a book that one of our readers will receive at the end of the month. We will have our drawing. And if you have subscribed to our website, then you are eligible to receive this book. Um, and so these are just some of the things that Repair, Restore, and Grow Black community is doing to help our community. You all have the power to do something. So, everybody, think about what you can do to contribute to make the change that you want to see and you know that we need to have in our community. Tonight, we chose, as opposed to having a business on our podcast, to talk about immigration. And this is why I asked Bob to come on. And so before we get started with the topic, I would like for you, Bob, to introduce yourself. I'm sure many people in the community know who you are, and then there are those who don't. But I would like for you to take this moment to introduce yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm Bob Starks, Professor Emeritus, Northeastern Illinois University Center for Inner City Studies. Uh, I've, been teaching for uh, 35, 40 years at the Center for Inner City Studies. Before that, I was the founder of the Black Studies program at Northern Illinois University in DeKalb.
Okay.
And before that, I worked at the Chicago Urban League and, as in research department. And before that, I was the first, one of the first, because it was two of us, African American working for Booz Allen and Hamilton um, uh, consulting firm. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Hmm.
Okay, wonderful. So I asked Bob to come on because I know Bob has some historical background and experiences that he can bring to this subject matter. I know when we start to talk about immigration, uh, people tend to get very upset, and
Hmm.
because of the obvious that we see. But I'll tell you what really brought me to have this discussion. uh, I talked to two business owners who's had two different experiences. One who owns, a brother Muhammad, who owns the lion's share of the mall there at 47th and Lake Park. He has the
Hmm.
laundromat.
Hmm.
And he approached the owner, who is a Chinese, about purchasing it because he has, the largest part of the mall. And his response was that the Chinese became very, gentleman became very irate and was offended that he would even ask him if he would want to sell, and and told him not to, even dare ask him again. And then I spoke with another proprietor, which I do not have permission to give her name, but she has a beautiful boutique um, in the Chatham area. And she was approached by a Korean who owned the property next to her because she wants to expand. And the Korean and mentioned to her that in her family, her father owned that property, and she's supposed to sell that property to another Korean, to another Asian, or an Arab. That's
Hmm.
who she is supposed to sell it to. But she indicated to this owner that she was so ashamed at how her people had made so much money off of the Black community and had not reinvested any of it into the community, that she found it necessary and thought it was appropriate that she would sell that property to this Black owner. And that's what actually occurred. And so here on one end, we can look and see what's happening, in terms of immigration. And there's a history behind all of this. And there's a method to all of this. And then you have two people, one person admitting what we've been saying all the time, and then another person just outright telling you, what we often experience. Because usually when they come to a Black business, they want to buy it. They
Hmm.
have cash money,
Hmm.
to buy it. And Black people have problems even selling their businesses to other Black people.
Right.
So so
That's
I
right.
would like for you to talk about what your perspective is,
Mhm.
on that whole subject matter there.
Okay. Well, it's really a predator prey kind of relationship.
Mhm.
People come into America, not only Asians and others, as well as Jewish people, as well as uh, you know Islamic people, the whole bit. They come, and their major target is the black community. Why?
Mhm.
Because they know they can make a mint on the black community without investing anything, without even uh, doing anything, and then they can pass it on to their children and continue to make money. Many of the Arab-owned stores in the black community are very, very aggressively uh, nasty to the black public, and the black public still continue to buy from them. Uh,
Mhm.
for instance, it was revealed some time ago that some of the Arabs on 39th Street before they left sold guns and drugs out of the back door of the store,
Mm. Mhm.
and they preyed on young black girls. And in addition, they had young black men standing at the front harassing the people coming in, and they were making a mint on African American communities. And so, if you ask the average Arab owner if they where do they make their money, they're going to tell you it's in the black community because black people will come in and buy. And one of the reasons, again, is that there are very few alternatives in
Mhm.
many of the communities because, as you stated, we have not gotten to the point where we go and buy stores and set up stores in our own community. One of the reasons, of course, is that we can't get the money from the banks,
Mhm.
the loan
Mhm.
companies to expand or to even buy stores. And of course, as you stated, again, they come with cash money.
That's right.
Remember, as late as the 1990, we had numerous African American owned gas stations across
That's right.
the city. How many do we have now? Someone pointed out one.
Just one.
One black owned service station in the entire city.
Now,
That's
how do we start to lose those types of businesses? I know when it came to the hair care industry, I
Mhm.
I saw the beauty supply stores
Oh yeah.
coming in, and they came in mass, and they came in with lower prices.
Mhm.
But there was a beauty supply store on the west side because I'm originally from the west side. It was called
Okay.
Thelma's. It was on Pulaski and
Mm.
Madison.
Okay.
And I think they just recently took the sign down, but that's where everyone went to get their hair care products from Thelma's. But Thelma could not compete with the prices that these beauty supply stores had. So what happened with the gas stations?
Well, let's go back to the beauty supply for 1 minute.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, in the mid 1980s, there was an attack on African American owned cosmetic companies. And in fact, the whites said they were going to run blacks out of business and take over. And of course, they did. Because remember, Johnson Products and all these other companies are no longer
Yeah, that was
listed.
Fashion Fair, Floyd Roberts.
Right.
Yeah.
And the reason they did it, the way they did it, was cut down on the prices. On the other hand, you had the Arab and Chinese and other Asians coming in, and one of the stores was at 63rd and Cottage. And what they did was they would come in with inferior copies of products
Hmm.
and sell them, and they were knockoffs. Okay. And then
Hmm.
later, after around the mid 1990s, they began to, hello, are you still there?
I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here. Hmm.
Later, they began to sell hair, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody in the world knows where that hair comes from. Some
Okay.
people suggested that it may be horse hair,
Mm-hmm.
God knows it's not human hair. And for some reason, our people are just running crazy to get this hair from these dealers, and many of them, some of them are Indian owned stores, because there's a tradition in India that at some point in the year, women who have long hair cut their hair off and sell it to
Mm-hmm.
these dealers, who then bring the hair to America, and African American women go and buy it. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, that's their business, but it's
Mm-hmm.
making those stores rich and making us poor.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So with the hair, okay, they lowball the prices. With the
Mhm.
cosmetics, they lowball the prices.
And
Where where
come up with knockoffs, you know.
And okay, so here you got, obviously when you're doing stuff like that, because I remember going to New York, there were areas in New York that you could go to where you could buy, what they call bootleg products.
Exactly.
And the government knows that
Of
they're
course.
there, with the Gucci bags
Yes.
and
Yes.
all of that. So you bringing these products into the community, and why didn't we have any protection, or where should the protection have come from?
Well, one of the reasons is we have to blame uh, the elders in our community, because remember, you have hundreds and hundreds of stores and businesses owned by African Americans who struggle, put pennies together, and build these businesses. And then their children, once the parents die, the children say, "Oh, I'm not going to be bothered with this. We'll sell it." And then
Mhm.
comes the immigrant with a pocket full of money, throw it on the counter, and we buy it, and it's gone, because they don't. These African Americans who have inherited these stores do not have the same kind of uh, allegiance that you pointed
Mhm.
out, which says,
Mhm.
"I will never sell this store to
That's
a
right.
non-black."
Mhm. And do we even have those types of conversations,
No, no,
with our children, or in our family, which goes back to what Marcus Garvey was saying. You have to continue to read, and you have to continue to educate yourself
hmm
and re-educate yourself,
right. So
because
many,
you're not being educated to sustain yourself as a group of people.
many of the young people say, "Well, I go to college and I got a degree. I don't want to come back and run no little corner store. I mean, I want to go and work for IBM or Chase or whatever, and I don't want to be bothered with this little store." Now, let me give you an example. There's a story, Pete's Produce.
Yes.
Uh, Now, Pete's Produce started with a little corner store, and it grew. And then the young man, who was the son of the first owner, went to business school, and he came back after getting his MBA with a plan to take that one store and turn it into a major produce store in the city. And as you know,
Hmm.
Peach Produce is on the west side, south side, east side. Am I right?
That's right. That's right. They're
But
all
this,
over,
that's
and they
right.
have gotten big.
And they've got, and the young man, and as opposed to some young African Americans, said, "Look at this. I don't have time for that. I'm going to work for a big company, and be big."
Hmm.
This kid took his experience and his learning in the MBA program at the university, and came back and said, "Dad, here's a plan to expand, and we're going to make this, instead of one store, we're going to have 5, 6 stores throughout the city." Isn't that interesting?
That
Why
is
is it our children don't have that kind of attitude?
right. We don't have that vision,
No.
And then at the same time, you have to juxtapose that with people or different parts of or stages in our time here in this country when we have come together,
Right.
that there's this force that comes to tear it apart, just like you talked about the uh, uh, cosmetic industry.
Mhm, mhm,
And
mhm,
look what happened with the
mhm.
cosmetic industry. Okay, all of a sudden, some people come together and say, "Well, we're gonna put you out of business.
Exactly.
We're gonna undercut you, and we're gonna buy you out."
Value out.
But when the people from Pete's Produce Son decide they're gonna have Pete's Produce all over the city,
That's right.
nobody's coming and saying that to them.
Right. Exactly.
That's not happening.
Right, right. And as you stated, we are still suffering under the discrimination in lending and from banks and companies. They won't give
Absolutely.
us the same credit. And we,
Absolutely.
and so we can't expand in many cases. But you are absolutely correct in stating your first example of a a kind of close knit kind of thing where they said,
Hmm.
"This is our living. I'm gonna, you know, I'm gonna milk it to while I'm alive, and then
That's
pass it on
right.
to the next generation." We don't look at it like that. We've
That's
got
right.
to start looking at it
And
like,
then, okay, you look at when you talk about discrimination. Now, okay, let me say this. We have people who come to this country and they say that immigrants come to this country for better opportunities to find work,
hmm
better living conditions,
exactly.
to be with their American spouses and families. They want to escape trouble in their country if their country is, having problems. They want to get a better education,
hmm
uh, and then here we were brought here through the 17th and 19th century, involuntarily as slaves. But you got people who come here for all of these different reasons to get ahead,
hmm
but then they come here and they come into our communities,
hmm
and the things that they're running from, they impose it
Precisely.
on
Precisely.
black people.
Precisely.
Because you, number one, okay, you come in here for better work opportunities, but you'll open up a business and you won't hire a black person.
Precisely.
You
Precisely.
can't hire a black person. I know individual that has a restaurant, an Indian person that has a restaurant, and his wife, him, and both are the nicest people. And I considered my daughter, since we frequented the restaurant so much, that maybe my daughter could get a job there. And they just told me, we can't hire her. We have to hire our own people.
Hmm.
Now, if they were white and they told us that, then we would be yelling discrimination. But
Uh-huh.
why isn't it discrimination when they do this to us?
Right. Well, let's make one thing perfectly clear, and that is African Americans are the only group of people that did not come on their own. We didn't come to this country on our own. We were
Hmm.
brought here
Hmm.
and enslaved and commodified uh, by and turned into chattel by slavers. So everybody else came here to get a better life and the whole bit. We were
Hmm.
brought here to make life better for everybody else, and that
Everybody else.
attitude is passed from one generation to the next, whether they be white, Asian, whatever. That is the attitude and the thought, the mantra in every one of these immigrant communities is, if you want to make some money, go over to the south side or the west side.
Hmm.
You have a gold mine because black people will come and buy from you.
But they are also, if I'm coming from another country and I'm doing this, then our government is allowing this.
Of course.
There are factions of people in this country that are telling them this is where you go, this
Hey.
is where you will set up, and
Hmm.
this is where you will make your money, and we will support you. I remember when Rahm Emanuel first got in office. One of the first things that he did was created an organization. I think it was called New City,
Mm,
and in creating that organization, it was for immigrants,
mm,
and they were given resources. It was millions of dollars, and I believe the whole program, the way it was set up, was something that they took from a program book from Harold Washington, in terms of bringing um, mentors in,
mhm.
CEOs of other companies, of people that were successful, in to help them, and they help them with education. They help them with business, not to get jobs, but to set up businesses.
Businesses. Yes, yes.
And they help them with health.
Hmm.
They provided them assistance with civics, giving them information about civics and how to engage themselves appropriately in this country, and just on and on. They got all of this support,
Hmm.
and here
Well,
we were. If you compared us in all of those areas, you could show that we were under resourced
oh,
with
without a
each one
doubt.
of those areas. Monies were taken away from our schools, and as you say, Black people were not able to get money.
Right.
And most people who start a business, whether they're Black or white, they have to come to the table with their own money they got from their family, their
Hmm.
friends, they
Hmm.
saved up and get credit cards or whatever. They come in there with their own money. But where you're going to need the bank to support you is to sustain and grow that business. And
That is
that's where you get no help.
right. Well, not only that, the reality is there's discrimination in the immigration programs and how they are applied across the world. You
Hmm.
know, what was it? 2 months ago, we saw men on horses and whips pushing Haitian people back to Haiti. While
Hmm.
at the same
Hmm.
time allowing people from Afghanistan to come in, you know, just come in large numbers. Not only
Hmm.
let them come in, but as you stated, fund them with
That's right.
education, with money, set up
That's
business.
right.
Universities are now giving them tuition-free college
Hmm.
thing,
Hmm.
and and that's it's crazy. Now I have pointed this out to members of the African American, the Black Caucus in Congress, and asked them why aren't they bringing this up? Why is it that Haitians are being pushed back to Haiti, and you are welcoming people from Afghanistan, and now you're welcoming people from Ukraine? Do you understand
Hmm.
what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And
Absolutely.
Mexico, right?
That's
But
right.
but
That's right.
Haitians, you push them back to a really sparse, crazy system where people are starving to death and in really, really bad shape. We have got to address that.
And even when Trump was in office, now Trump was fighting, the borders, and
Hmm.
and and dealing with the infrastructure, in terms of immigration, trying to make changes there.
Hmm.
And we mostly, the people are coming from Mexico and Cuba. Most
Hmm.
people that come here, our immigrants, are from China, India, the Dominican Republic, and the
Right,
Philippines.
right,
but
right.
but but what they don't talk about is those Europeans
Hmm. Hmm.
that come here, those undocumented
There you
Europeans. There was a study by the Migration Policy Institute.
go. Hmm.
It's a partisan think tank, and they said the research found that 579,000 undocumented immigrants in the United States, who were, born in Europe. It came
Yeah,
from Canada and
right.
different places, and Trump didn't say anything about them.
Of course not. Of course not. Well, let me tell you the one country where that's most prominent is Ireland. There are thousands of Irish people who are undocumented, who've been here for years and have not been touched. Period. Not been touched. I mean, the immigration people are not harassing them, knocking on doors at 12 o'clock at night and
Mhm,
calling them off
mhm,
to jail and stuff. But because first of all, they speak English, right?
mhm,
They can
mhm,
pass themselves off as a regular American. Plus, the Irish have in every level of government, there's Irish people who are protecting their fellow Irishmen, all the way
mhm,
from Biden himself, who's Irish, all the way down to the Daly family, which is
mhm,
Irish, right? And
mhm,
they're in every level of government, so they're going to
mhm,
protect their people.
mhm, mhm,
Why is it that the Congressional Black Caucus cannot began to raise hell and ask the kinds of questions. Uh, Again, if you're going to bring in all of the people from Ukraine and give them all these things that they need to survive and get by and open businesses, why can't you say to the president and the rest of the Congress, let's do the same thing for people from Haiti, people from Africa when they want to come? Okay.
Well, Jordan, Barbara Jordan, this was in 1993.
Uh huh.
The civil rights icon and Democratic Congresswoman, she was
Yep.
appointed by Bill Clinton to chair the Commission on Immigration
Hmm.
and Reform. And ultimately, Jordan's commission discovered that mass immigration to the United States hurt poor working class and lower tier middle class Americans the most, as it unfairly put them in competition. And
Exactly.
Jordan's recommendation included slashing legal immigration levels to half, and a plan that Donald Trump had tried to enact, but then the Republican Party did not support it.
Right. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
And
So
so,
yeah, we need to have as a people an agreed upon approach to the issue of immigration, which we do not have because you get different opinions about it uh, throughout the country, and we don't have a common understanding of it. And then, secondly, we feel sorry for everybody but ourselves, unfortunately,
mhm,
you know. And we are being, as I said, it's a predator prey kind of relationship. They are predatory to us, and we are the prey. And they're making millions of dollars that they then send some of it back to their countries of
to their
origin,
countries.
and then they can bring more people from those countries over to this country. And as you said, pass those businesses from one generation to the next. Okay. Yep. And
And so, how does this? Okay, in I'm going to ask you to address this question of how it benefits America. But I know one of the negative impacts is that I found some statistics to show that 63% of the immigrants that come to this country access the welfare
mhm,
system.
yeah.
And then people come here and they bring their children here, and their children have needs, especially if they're coming from a country uh where there's trouble and there's wars and there's poverty and lack of resources, and they bring their children here, and then their children have to be serviced as well.
Mm-hmm.
And it that puts a strain on our economy.
Yes, it does. While at the same time, African Americans are termed welfare queens, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And and in the 1960s, they began a um, a process within the welfare system, which said, in effect, that if there was a man in the house, the women could not receive welfare. So, but,
Absolutely.
and this, I mean, it's just all kinds of stuff that's going on and
Mm-hmm.
continuing to go on
Mm-hmm.
because we do not stand up hard enough and fast enough, and as a people pushing for our own rights as people in this country. We've got to have solidified approaches that we all support and
Mm-hmm.
never give up. That remember that was
No.
one of Malcolm X's major points that we cannot give up. We have to continually fight. Absolutely.
Well, you're put in a position where you
Mm,
don't have a choice,
mm,
because there's constant policies being put in place that are causing you problems,
right. Right.
that's constantly creating oppression. I know during the civil rights movement, Johnson, just as we fought for human rights, for equality in this country, he also opened up that door when they talked about racial discrimination.
Mm-hmm.
He also opened up that door, addressing racial discrimination for other people that the United States was denying to come here.
Mm-hmm.
Because,
Mm-hmm.
the pilgrims, came here because they wanted religious freedom, you know.
Exactly.
And
Mm-hmm.
then you had other people that wanted to come here. They were refusing to let other people come. But once they had to address this issue of racial discrimination, then that became a open door for racial discrimination, addressing it around the world. So now we got to let all these other people in here, and actually immigration became an issue then.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why so many people, when they come here, they thinking about coming here, getting their civil rights, getting a better way of life, and they
Mm-hmm.
see themselves in tandem with our struggle,
Mm-hmm.
when it's not the same.
Right. Well, let me ask you a question. Since I am absolutely enthused that you have this program,
Mm-hmm.
which is devoted to upgrading African American businesses. How
Mm-hmm.
do you get the word out, and how do you get people in the businesses as well as the audience and the participants to adhere to the values that you put forth. Let me give you an example. I've heard all my life about people saying, "Well, they didn't treat me right at this black store. I'm never going back to that a black
Mm-hmm.
store again." And at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, we get mistreated in white stores, and you never hear black people say, "I'm never going back to a white-owned store again." Am I correct?
They keep going
They keep
and they keep complaining. That's what that's
Exactly.
that's what they do. They keep going and they
Exactly.
continue to complain.
Now, how do you get both the business correct and the attitude on the part of the the people who go to those businesses? What is this?
Well, one of the things through the podcast, first of all, there are more black businesses out here than our people actually know about.
Exactly, exactly.
That's the first thing. And I discovered that when I was working with the organizing committee, when they were that year when they were trying to get black people to not spend their money during Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
They had the marches downtown, and we were going out to the community on foot. It's when you get out here on foot and you walk past, and I realized there were lots of businesses out here that
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even know.
Mm-hmm.
And I just started making a list, almost like my own little directory, you
Mm-hmm.
know um because we're creatures of habit. We
Yeah.
used to going, driving this way and going to this place and going to that place, and we pass by so much in our communities.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why we started the podcast, because I wanted to get as many businesses on here as possible. And we're also working on a directory and getting that out here to people to let people know we have a lot of businesses out here. And if you
Hmm.
had a bad experience over here, there are other opportunities
Hmm.
to go to other businesses. And then as we talk, and I go, the businesses that come on this podcast, I go to them personally. I go to their establishment, I talk to them, I've done business with them, and we have these conversations about how we can do business better.
Hmm.
And so that's why one of the legs, in terms of one of the pillars, rather, of our organization is to raise dollars to hire a business manager. I've talked
Hmm.
to a number of people who have opened up businesses and they need a business manager because they wanted to open up a business. They managed to get the money together to open it up, but they don't really know how to run a business.
True. Very
And I
true.
think that's a big problem because then you have, I know people who open up businesses and you go there and they're not open.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when are they open? Or you go there and they don't have the products that you're looking for on the shelf. This is a management problem.
Yes, it is. Yes, it
So
is.
what we're wanting to do with the bigger dollars is to bring a manager in, just as though they were hiring a manager. Come in 3 days a week, 4 days a week for an extended period of time to help them do business better. So
Hmm.
that's one way that our organization is trying to help. And then I've gone into many businesses where I look around and I say, it's kind of junky in here.
Hmm. Hmm.
I wish if they could just get some paint. I mean, I'm visualizing in my own mind if they could just get some new flooring.
Hmm.
I've
Hmm.
actually talked to some contractors and had them to go into some businesses and say, well, how much would you charge to come in here, and improve this decorum in this way and that way?
Hmm.
So that's what we want to do with the dollars that we raise. Right now, we've been able to help with the website, with the marketing piece. So we want to
Excellent.
raise more dollars to go in, not sending them to a website and or a webinar and shoving some papers at them, but actually coming in and giving some hands-on help.
Great. That's absolutely great. Absolutely. And then on the other side, we've got to have um, social media and websites and advertising and everything else to
Mhm.
drive African American customers to those businesses.
That's right. That's
Uh,
right.
so important that we do that.
That's right. That's
Absolutely.
right.
Uh,
That's right.
Now, how has the COVID pandemic, uh, how has that, I guess we could say, how has it either helped or hurt African American businesses?
It has hurt the way I have seen it hurt
Mhm.
our businesses is that I hear over and over again, they need workers.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
When they put mandates in place, I think when there was uh, a restaurant that opened on 75th Street. And once the mayor put some mandates in place that people had to be vaccinated,
Yep.
he lost 5 people in the same day. They
Get
quit.
out of here. Get
They
out of
quit.
here.
And so he was in there when I went by to visit him to talk to him about being on the podcast. He was in there mopping the floor, just trying to be open for some hours. But the people he had trained to work in the store were gone.
Mm, mm, mm.
And also people, I think with this COVID and people not I guess getting these dollars from the government and these stimulus checks,
Yep.
uh people feeling like they can work from home and
Yep.
they can do for themselves. I know some nail salons and some contractors, you know, they work with people, they train people, and then people go off and work for themselves.
Well, you talk about nail shops and beauty salons. Why is it that African American women have allowed Koreans and Asians to take over the nail business? I mean, I don't know of any. Maybe
It's
I'm
the
wrong.
same, it's the same as the hair. It's the same as the hair and the cosmetic. They come in with a cheaper price. They come in, they get you in, they get you out. See, they have done their marketing and they know what black people want. And black people have to, this is why I say the management is very important because these people are giving black people what they want. And too often black businesses want to give you what they want to give you as opposed to focusing on what the people want, how they want it, when they want it. You know, they want it now, they want it cheap, they want to be able to come in and get it when they want to come in and get it. And these people, in spite of the COVID, the immigrants, you know, they have continued to thrive
Yes, of course.
because they're in there working
Mhm,
and their people, and it's that collective that they have. Their people are not quitting and
mhm.
walking away, but our workers have been quitting and walking away. I was sitting in a restaurant or and the chef walked out, and this was in a black owned restaurant, and the
Mm.
chef of the restaurant just walked out the door. And
Oh,
I don't know, there must have been some, disgruntlement between them and the owner, but the owners and his wife had to come in and take over
mm, mm,
in the
mm,
kitchen, and they were looking for workers.
mm. Well, how do you? I mean, again, I don't go to nail shops, but let me just tell you, I have not seen a single nail shop owned by a black person.
Oh,
I mean,
but that's
are
not
there
true.
any?
And see, and that's why I'm saying that's not true. We've had two on this show. And I know of
Okay.
several others. That's why I'm saying we have some wonderful nail shops out here. People that are not only doing manicures and pedicures, but are doing facials, are doing massages, are doing providing reflexology treatments and
Excellent.
Reiki, and all of this. But do
Okay.
we know who they are and where
Exactly.
they are? No, we do not, not to the extent. So that's why you said the marketing and getting these people and these businesses out here are important,
Extremely important.
extremely
Extremely.
important. And so now we're looking for ways to, put this out here, not only with our directory, but actually going into the stores. This is a grassroots project.
Hmm.
You've got to get out here and hit the pavement,
Hmm.
and put things in people's hands and have conversations with people.
Well, the on the other hand, one of my uh, buddies is Reverend Al Sampson,
Hmm.
who works with the black farmers from Mississippi,
Okay.
Alabama,
Uh-huh.
Arkansas, etc.
Uh-huh.
And he brings in produce from
Hmm.
those states and sells them.
That's right.
We got to make sure that we support African American producers of of fruits
Well,
and
we've had two farmers on our podcast uh,
great.
from the Pembroke area out there in
Excellent.
Kankakee.
Oh yes, I've been
Okay,
out.
Dr. Ifonza of Black
Exactly.
Oaks, and then Boots and Saddles was on our
Hmm.
podcast just
Hmm.
about 2 weeks ago.
Hmm.
And she has the horse riding stable out there, but
And I've taken my
she
children out.
has
Mhm.
absolutely. And so
Mhm.
she has expanded into agriculture. And
Great.
she was before COVID, she was bringing young people out there and teaching them
Yes.
farming. She's
Right.
teaching her children, her grandchildren farming. I know Black Oaks Farm has done that. There are about 5 black farms out there right here in Illinois
Right.
that could offer us everything from pigs to goats, to chickens, to eggs, to all kinds of fruits and vegetables. Um, and then there's the Mount Vernon, is that Mount Vernon Church?
Yes,
That
yes.
was on Stony Island. They bought a lot of land out there in Lansing, if I'm
Hmm.
not mistaken. And they have a farm that
Hmm.
has advertised on WVON extensively for people to be able to purchase from them. And
Hmm.
so it has to be a consciousness, I
Yes,
think,
yes.
also that you have to, what did they say? Seek and you shall find. You
Hmm.
know, if you look for black businesses, you look for black nail shops, and you're looking for black farmers, and you're looking for black boutiques, and you're looking for black restaurants, and you're looking for black dentists, and you know, looking for black cosmetologists, and
Hmm.
people that's doing the all of the constructive, you know, work, construction work. They're out here,
Yeah, yeah, they are.
you know, but you have to seek them. You
Right,
have to look for them, and so that's about creating a consciousness in people to want to do business with
right,
black people, because the
right.
businesses are out here.
Denise, you and I are old. I'm older than you, but we're old enough to remember when
Hmm.
every black community had a black-owned cleaners.
That's right.
How
That's
many
right.
black-owned cleaners do you find in Chicago now?
Well, we've got Taylor, we got Taylor Wright on
Yes,
Cottage Grove,
right.
and I mean they've been around a long time,
Yes,
and they
yes,
do extensive work, you know.
exactly.
And then there's City Cleaners on Stony Island,
Right.
that's black owned, and there's one on 75th Street. I can't think of the name of it, and that man's been there a long time, and I've walked right past and driven right past, never knew he was there,
Hmm.
never knew he was black owned,
Right.
and he's been there for years,
Right.
decades.
Right.
uh, so they're out here,
Hmm. Well,
but we have to support them.
well, the owners of one owner of black cleaners told me that the Koreans have pretty much taken over the cleaning business, and
Mm-hmm.
even African American owners of cleaners have to join the Korean cleaning associations
Mm-hmm.
because that's where it is. That's what they
Mm-hmm.
control the business. They have more stores in this city than African Americans or white
That's
people.
right.
Isn't that
That's right.
something?
That's
You know,
right.
this is disturbing. What are
That's
we
right.
teaching our young people?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
And that's what I think, why I think the education piece is so
mhm,
important. the
extremely
the
important.
reading the reading is so important. Again, back to what Marcus Garvey said, we have to start educating our people.
Right. And the main thing is we got to teach our children to love themselves
That's
and
right.
love each other.
That's
And
right.
love means patronizing your fellow African Americans when they're wrong. Tell them when they're wrong,
And
and
see,
tell
I think also there's a lot of negative media
yes,
out here about us.
yes,
Okay. And there's more information out here about what we're doing wrong than
hmm,
what we're doing
right,
right.
exactly.
And that message has to get out here, because we have a lot of people out here doing what's right. But because
Hmm.
we don't see it, we don't hear it, that's not what's being talked about, we
That's
develop this attitude towards ourselves.
right, right, right,
And
and
then you're not getting the support to do that. You constantly, somebody's or something is constantly pushing against that. It's just like I was listening to Dr. Darity, who was talking about reparations, you know,
mhm,
um, and Dr. Darity was stating that when we get reparations, I'll say when, because I'm definitely that this will come for Black people. But when we get reparations, we have to have a means of protecting it.
You're
You know,
right,
whatever we
because
put on the table, how do we protect it?
well, you're right because one friend of mine suggested that if we get reparations on a Monday, by Friday it will be back in the pockets of white people and immigrants
That's
because
right.
we'll go and spend it all, in Cadillacs and Mercedes Benzes and buying clothes on Michigan Avenue and the whole bit, rather than investing that in the black community, in
Hmm.
stores, banks, and you know, we have what, one black owned bank in the whole city? I mean, that's incredible.
And
You and I can remember when,
That's the Southside Community Federal Credit Union,
right?
which we have an account at, you know,
Uh-huh. uh,
and we support the Southside Community Federal Credit Union. They're on the front page of our website,
mhm.
and I just, I encourage people when I talk to them to go over there and just open up an account.
Uh, And you and I can remember when we had five black banks across the city and on the
Mhm.
west side. Remember
Mhm. Mhm.
what
Mhm.
happened? What happened? Harold Washington would never have been elected mayor of the city had it not been for those black businesses that came together and financed his election campaign.
That's right.
You had car dealerships, you had banks, you had cosmopolitan, I mean cosmetic companies, the whole bit.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
now all of them are gone for the most part
And I
because.
know people who were in sales that went to visit the lab at Soft Sheen
Mm-hmm.
and had never seen anything like it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, it was such they just couldn't believe, the establishment, the work, that they were doing in there and the level to which they were doing the work that they were doing.
Well, the same thing with Johnson Publications. I mean, it was a fabulous operation. It had the largest black art collection of any company in the country. It had a cooking lab where and you remember in every Ebony magazine, there was recipes, right? And
Mhm.
they had test kitchens inside the building.
Mhm.
I mean, now Ebony is gone. The whole Johnson publication is gone. The building was sold out from under the company. I mean, what do, is there any hope for us? Give me some some hope, please.
I'm never gonna give up.
Thank you. Thank you.
I just have to say I'm never going to give up, and I haven't given up because I support black businesses,
Yes.
and I enjoy supporting black businesses.
Same here. Same here.
Because as the lady from Boots and Saddles that was on here, we talked about it, and it's a relationship that
Yes.
you establish when you go into a business, not just going in there to buy a product,
Right.
but if I'm going to frequent that place, you
Hmm.
know, there's a relationship, you
That
know.
is a
And
relationship.
when I come in and somebody goes, "Oh, hi, Denise," I mean, hey, they're glad to see me. I'm
Right.
glad to be there.
Right. 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 Well.
And this is what has to happen.
Mhm.
And I do think, like I said, we're working. We complain about these things, but that's what our organization is doing. We're working to educate our people, to help our people. And my great grandmother used to tell me, I can show you better than I can tell you.
Hmm.
So if you see me shopping or you ask me where I've gotten many of the things that I have, I can
Same here.
direct you to a black business.
Precisely.
I
Precisely.
can tell you, I got this and they're from where, from who.
Hmm.
I'm telling them where I got it from.
Hmm. Well, unfortunately, Denise, I've got to run. It's
Okay,
been
well,
a pleasure.
unfortunately, we have run out of time.
Well,
It
thank
is
you.
9 o'clock, but I
Yeah.
want to thank you for coming on to have this discussion with me. I'm sorry Doris wasn't able to
I
make it,
wish tell her
but
I said hello. Hmm.
absolutely I will. And thank you so much for coming.
And
And
thank you for
I want to
inviting me.
say to our audience, thank you for coming. and listening to this podcast. We will have another podcast for you next week from 8 to 9 right here at RRGBC. And
Thank you
so
so
have
much.
a good night.
Thank you. God bless.
All right.
Thank you.